The encounter. The clock on the kitchen wall read 9:15 p.m. when Emma Rodriguez tied her apron strings for what felt like the 100th time that day. Her fingers were stiff from carrying heavy trays, and her feet ached in the worn black shoes that had seen better days 3 years ago. The Grande Vista Hotel never slowed down, and neither did she. Bills didn't pay themselves, and her younger brother's college tuition wasn't getting any cheaper. She grabbed the silver tray loaded with premium whiskey and gourmet appetizers, destined for the penthouse suites where people spent more on dinner than she made in a month. The elevator hummed quietly as it carried her upward, each floor taking her further from her world and deeper into theirs. Floor 15, 16, 17. The numbers glowed softly as she watched them climb. The penthouse corridor was a study in understated elegance. Soft carpet muffled her footsteps, and crystal chandeliers cast warm pools of light every few feet. She'd walked these halls countless times, but tonight something felt different. The air seemed heavier, charged with an energy she couldn't quite place. Suite 1847. She knocked twice, professionally but not too loudly. The door opened to reveal a middle-aged businessman barely glancing up from his phone call. He gestured vaguely toward the sitting area, and Emma moved with practiced efficiency. Set the tray down, arrange the items perfectly, smile politely, and leave. Simple routine. But as she turned to go, her skin prickled with the unmistakable sensation of being watched. Not the casual glance of a distracted guest, but the focused attention of someone studying her every movement. She kept walking, maintaining her professional composure, but her pulse quickened. The service elevator was 20 steps away. 15, 10. She reached for the button just as footsteps echoed behind her in the corridor. Slow, deliberate, following her path exactly. Emma pressed the call button and waited, her reflection staring back at her from the polished metal doors. Behind her reflection, she caught sight of a tall figure in an expensive charcoal suit. The elevator arrived with a soft chime. As the doors slid open, Emma stepped inside and finally allowed herself to look back. The man was still there, maybe 30 feet away, not hiding his observation. He was younger than the usual penthouse guests, probably in his early 30s, with dark hair and an intense gaze that seemed to cut through the distance between them. Their eyes met for just a moment before the elevator doors closed, but that moment stretched like a held breath. Emma leaned against the back wall, her heart beating faster than it should for such a simple encounter. She'd served hundreds of wealthy guests over the years, but none had ever looked at her like that, like she was something worth noticing. The kitchen buzzed with its usual controlled chaos when she returned. Chef Martinez was barking orders about the evening's final service, and the dishwashers worked at their endless task of keeping up with demand. Emma slipped back into the rhythm, but her mind kept drifting to those intense eyes in the corridor. An hour later, she was clearing tables in the hotel's main restaurant when she saw him again. He sat alone at table 12, the best spot in the house with a view of the city lights. His suit jacket hung perfectly on his broad shoulders, and he held his wine glass with the casual confidence of someone accustomed to the finest things. But he wasn't looking at the view or his phone or the other diners. He was looking at her. Emma felt heat rise in her cheeks as she focused on stacking plates. This was ridiculous. Rich men looked through service staff all the time, not at them. She was imagining things, letting a long day and too much caffeine create drama where none existed. But when she glanced up again, his attention hadn't wavered. Marcus, the restaurant manager, appeared at her elbow with his usual stressed expression. Emma, table 12 is requesting you specifically for service. High roller, apparently. Don't mess it up. Her stomach dropped. Specifically requesting her. That never happened. Guest barely noticed servers existed, let alone asked for them by name. She smoothed her uniform, grabbed a water pitcher, and approached the table with her best professional smile firmly in place. Good evening, sir. I understand you requested my assistance. He looked up from his wine, and this close she could see his eyes were a striking blue-gray, the color of storm clouds. Emma Rodriguez. Right. You've been working here about 3 years. The water pitcher nearly slipped from her hands. I'm sorry, but how do you know my name? Beyond my name tag. I mean, a small smile played at the corners of his mouth. I make it my business to know things. Please, sit down. I can't sit with guests, sir. Hotel policy. I own the hotel. Policy doesn't apply to me. The words hit her like cold water. Own the hotel. The Grande Vista was part of a massive chain, owned by some corporate entity she'd never thought much about. The idea that this man, probably not much older than herself, could own something this enormous seemed impossible. I don't understand. she said, still standing. Nathan Cross, he said, extending his hand. Cross Holdings owns this hotel and about 40 others. I travel quietly, checking on operations. I don't usually interact with staff directly, but tonight is different. Emma stared at his outstretched hand. Nathan Cross, she'd heard the name whispered in management meetings, always spoken with a mixture of reverence and fear. The mysterious young billionaire who'd built a hospitality empire before his 30th birthday, and he was sitting in her section, knowing her name, asking her to sit down. "Why is tonight different?" she asked, slowly shaking his hand. His expression grew serious. "Because I think you might be in danger, and I'm the only one who's noticed." The restaurant noise faded into background static. "What kind of danger?" Nathan leaned forward slightly. "Someone has been taking photographs of you, professional grade, taken with telephoto lenses from outside the hotel. I've seen 3 sets of images in the past week, all focused on you specifically, your routines, your schedule, where you park your car." Emma's legs suddenly felt weak. She gripped the back of the chair for support. "That's not possible. Why would anyone do that?" "I don't know yet, but I intend to find out." His voice carried an authority that made her believe he could do exactly that. "When do you get off work tonight?" "Midnight," she whispered. "I'll have security walk you to your car. After that, we need to talk properly, somewhere private where we can figure out what's happening and how to keep you safe." Emma looked around the restaurant at the other diners enjoying their expensive meals, oblivious to the conversation happening at table 12. This morning she'd woken up worried about rent and her brother's textbook costs. Now a billionaire was telling her someone might be stalking her. "Why do you care?" she asked. "You don't know me." Nathan's expression softened slightly. "You're right, I don't know you well. But I've watched you work for the past 3 days, and I've seen how you treat people, how you remember the names of the kitchen staff, how you slip extra rolls to the elderly couple who comes in every Tuesday, how you work double shifts without complaining. You matter, Emma, and people who matter deserve protection." For the first time in years, Emma felt like someone truly saw her, not just as a server or a uniform or a means to an end, but as a person worth protecting. It was terrifying and thrilling all at once. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," Nathan said, standing and leaving several $100s on the table, "we find out who's been watching you and why, and we make sure they can't hurt you." As he walked away, Emma realized her quiet, predictable life had just taken a turn toward something extraordinary. She didn't know if she was ready for it, but as she watched Nathan's confident stride carry him toward the elevator, she knew there was no going back to the way things were. The remaining hours of her shift passed in a blur of nervous energy and anticipation. Every shadow seemed significant, every unfamiliar face potentially threatening, but underneath the fear was something else entirely. For the first time in her life, someone powerful had chosen to stand up for her. As midnight approached, Emma found herself both dreading and eagerly anticipating what would come next. The revelation: the hotel security guard who walked Emma to her car was built like a linebacker and spoke in clipped, professional sentences. "Mr. Cross arranged for additional patrols tonight. Mr. will be monitoring the garage until you leave safely." Emma nodded, her keys trembling slightly in her hand. The employee parking garage had never felt sinister before, but now every shadow seemed to hide potential threats. Her old Honda looked particularly vulnerable under the harsh fluorescent lights. "There's something else," the guard continued, handing her a small device. "Mr. Cross wants you to have this panic button. Press it if anything feels wrong, and security will respond immediately." She stared at the small black device. Yesterday, her biggest worry had been whether she could afford new work shoes. Now she needed a panic button. "How did my life get so complicated so fast?" The guard's expression softened slightly. "Mr. Cross doesn't take chances with people's safety, Miss. He's a good man to have on your side." After he watched her drive safely from the garage, Emma found herself heading not toward her small apartment but toward the address Nathan had quietly slipped her during his final visit to Table 12. The Meridian Tower was one of the city's most exclusive residential buildings, all glass and steel reaching toward the stars. The doorman expected her, which somehow made everything feel more surreal. She rode the elevator to the 42nd floor in silence, watching the city shrink below her. When the doors opened directly into Nathan's penthouse, she stepped into a world that belonged in magazines. Floor to ceiling, windows offered a panoramic view of the city. Modern art hung on walls painted in sophisticated grays and whites. Everything was perfectly placed, expensive, and somehow still welcoming. Nathan appeared from what looked like a home office, having traded his business suit for dark jeans and a casual button-down shirt. He looked younger this way, more approachable, though no less commanding. "Thank you for coming," he said, gesturing toward a comfortable seating area. "I know this is all overwhelming." Emma perched on the edge of a leather chair that probably cost more than her monthly salary. "I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and find out this was all some weird dream." Nathan poured 2 glasses of wine from a bottle that probably had a vintage older than she was. "I wish it were that simple." He handed her a glass and sat across from her, his expression serious. "I've learned more since we talked at dinner. The situation is worse than I initially thought." Her stomach clenched. "How much worse?" Nathan opened a tablet and turned it toward her. The screen showed a series of photographs, all of her, taken over the past several weeks. Emma walking to her car, entering her apartment building, grocery shopping, sitting in a coffee shop on her day off. Someone had been documenting her entire life without her knowledge. "These came from a private investigator," Nathan explained. "But not one working for me. Someone hired this person specifically to track your movements and habits." Emma's wine glass shook as she set it down. "Who would do that? I'm nobody special. I serve drinks and clear tables. I don't have enemies or secrets or anything worth investigating." "That's what I thought initially," Nathan said, his voice gentle but determined. "So I dug deeper into your background, trying to understand the connection." "You investigated me too?" Emma asked, hurt flickering in her voice. Nathan's expression grew pained. "I had to know if you were somehow involved, if this was part of some larger scheme. I'm sorry for violating your privacy, but I needed to understand what we're dealing with." "And what did you find?" Nathan leaned forward, his hands clasped together. "Your father, Miguel Rodriguez, worked as an accountant for Blackstone Construction 15 years ago. Does that name mean anything to you?" Emma frowned, searching her memory. "Maybe. Dad worked for several companies before he got sick." "Why, Blackstone was involved in a major embezzlement scandal. Millions of dollars disappeared from city construction contracts. Your father was the whistleblower who exposed the corruption. His testimony sent 3 executives to prison and brought down the entire company." The pieces clicked together in Emma's mind with horrible clarity. "You think someone from that case is targeting me, but that was 15 years ago. Dad died 3 years ago from cancer. If they wanted revenge, why wait so long?" Nathan pulled up another screen on his tablet. "Because the main perpetrator, Vincent Blackstone, was just released from federal prison last month. He served the maximum sentence and apparently spent his time inside planning his next moves." Emma felt the color drain from her face. "He blames my father for destroying his life. And now he's going after the only family your father has left." Nathan confirmed grimly. "You." She stood up abruptly, pacing to the windows and staring out at the glittering city below. "So what am I supposed to do? Hide for the rest of my life? Change my name and move across the country?" Nathan rose and joined her at the windows, standing close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. "You're not going to run. We're going to face this together." Emma turned to look at him, confusion and hope warring in her expression. "Why are you doing this? Really, you could have just told hotel security to keep an eye on things. You didn't need to get personally involved." For the first time since she'd met him, Nathan seemed to struggle for words. He looked out at the city, his jaw working silently for a long moment. "I built my business by watching people," he finally said. "I can read body language, predict behavior, spot opportunities and threats. It's made me very successful and very wealthy. But it's also made me cynical about human nature. I stopped believing people could be genuinely good without ulterior motives." He turned to face her fully. "Then I watched you for 3 days. I saw you give your lunch to a homeless man outside the hotel. I saw you stay late to help a new server who was struggling. I saw you use your own tips to buy flowers for the elderly woman who comes to the restaurant alone every week. You restored my faith in the idea that truly good people still exist in this world." Emma felt tears threatening at the corners of her eyes. "I'm not special, Nathan. I just try to treat people the way I'd want to be treated." "That's exactly what makes you special," he said softly. "And it's why I can't let anyone hurt you." The air between them crackled with tension and unspoken possibilities. Emma found herself drawn to this man who saw something in her that she'd never recognized in herself. But before she could respond, Nathan's phone buzzed urgently. He glanced at the screen and his expression darkened. "We have a problem. Building security just spotted someone attempting to break into your apartment." Emma's blood ran cold. "He knows where I live." "Not anymore, he doesn't," Nathan said grimly, already reaching for his car keys. "Because from tonight forward, you're staying here where I can protect you properly." As they rushed toward the elevator, Emma realized her simple life as a hotel waitress was officially over. Whether that was a blessing or a curse remained to be seen. The protection, the drive to Emma's apartment building took 12 minutes through empty city streets, but it felt like hours. Nathan's luxury sedan moved through the night like a predator, its engine purring softly as he navigated traffic with the same controlled intensity he brought to everything else. Emma sat in the passenger seat, her hands twisted together in her lap, watching familiar neighborhoods blur past. "The police are already there," Nathan said, glancing at his phone. "My head of security is coordinating with them. We'll know more when we arrive." Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. Her small apartment above the corner market had been her sanctuary for 3 years. The thought of Vincent Blackstone violating that space made her feel sick and violated. They pulled up to find the street lined with police cars, their red and blue lights painting the building in alternating colors. Detective Rivera, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a nonsense attitude, met them at the entrance. "Ms. Rodriguez, I'm glad you're safe. We got here just in time." She led them toward the building. "The perpetrator was attempting to pick your lock when building security spotted him. He fled before we could apprehend him, but he left behind some concerning items." They climbed the narrow stairs to Emma's second-floor apartment. The hallway was crowded with police officers and crime scene technicians. Emma's door stood open, revealing her small but tidy living space beyond. He had professional lockpicking tools, surveillance equipment, and this, Detective Rivera said, holding up an evidence bag containing a handwritten note. "It's addressed to you." Emma's hand shook as she read the words through the plastic. "Your father destroyed my life. Now I'll destroy his legacy. You can't hide from justice forever." Nathan's jaw clenched as he read over her shoulder. "This is escalating faster than I anticipated. He's becoming desperate. We're treating this as a credible threat," Detective Rivera confirmed. "I strongly recommend you stay somewhere else until we can locate and arrest Mr. Blackstone." Emma looked around her apartment, taking in the second-hand furniture she'd carefully chosen. The photographs of her family, the small touches that made this place home. "I can't afford a hotel." "You won't need to," Nathan said quietly. "I meant what I said earlier. You're staying with me." Detective Rivera raised an eyebrow but didn't comment on the arrangement. "Mr. Cross, your building has excellent security. That's probably the safest option right now." She turned to Emma. "We'll have officers patrol this area regularly, but I don't recommend coming back here alone until Blackstone is in custody." An hour later, they were back in Nathan's penthouse. Emma sat on his couch, still processing everything that had happened. In the space of a single evening, she'd learned she was being stalked by a dangerous criminal, discovered her connection to a 15-year-old corruption case, and agreed to move in with a billionaire she'd met less than 6 hours ago. Nathan appeared with a mug of hot tea, settling beside her with careful distance. "I know this is overwhelming." "Overwhelming doesn't begin to cover it," Emma said, accepting the tea gratefully. "This morning I was worried about my electric bill. Now I'm hiding from someone who wants to hurt me because of something my father did when I was a teenager." "Your father was a hero," Nathan said firmly. "He risked everything to expose corruption and protect innocent people. That took incredible courage." Emma smiled sadly. "He never talked about it much, just said he'd done what was right and paid the price. I always thought he meant losing his job. I never realized he might have put us in danger." Nathan turned to face her more fully. "Emma, I want you to know that staying here isn't charity or some kind of rescue fantasy. You're not helpless, and I'm not trying to save you. We're partners in this, working together to solve a problem." "Partners," Emma repeated, testing the word. "I like the sound of that better than damsel in distress." "Good, because I've never been attracted to helpless women," Nathan said, then seemed to realize what he'd just admitted. A faint blush colored his cheeks. Emma set down her tea and looked at him directly. "Are you attracted to me? I mean..." The question hung in the air between them. Nathan had built his fortune on calculated risks and strategic decisions, but this felt different, more personal, more dangerous to his carefully constructed life. "Yes," he said simply. "From the moment I saw how you handled that difficult customer in the restaurant yesterday. You were professional but not servile, kind but not weak. You stood your ground while still doing your job perfectly. It was impressive." Emma felt warmth spread through her chest. "I've never had someone notice things like that about me." "Then you've been around the wrong people." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the city lights twinkling beyond the windows. Then Nathan's phone buzzed with an urgent message. "Blackstone just used a credit card at a gas station 6 blocks from here," he said, his expression hardening. He's not giving up. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. He's still coming after me. Let him come, Nathan said, standing and walking to a control panel on the wall. This building has state-of-the-art security, and I've got the best protection money can buy. He pressed several buttons, and Emma heard the soft hum of additional security measures activating. What if that's not enough? Nathan returned to sit beside her, this time close enough that their knees almost touched. Then he'll have to go through me first. And I can promise you, Emma, that's not going to happen easily. Looking into his determined blue-gray eyes, Emma felt something shift inside her. The fear was still there, but it was overshadowed by something stronger, trust, and maybe, just maybe, the beginning of love. What happens after we catch him? She asked. Do I go back to serving tables and pretending this never happened? Nathan reached over and took her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. That's entirely up to you, but I hope you'll consider staying, not just until this is over, but afterward too. I'd like to see where this leads. Emma looked down at their joint, hands then back up at his face. You realize I'm completely out of your league, right? I don't know anything about your world. And you realize that's exactly why I want you in it, Nathan replied. My world is full of people who want things from me. You're the first person in years who makes me want to give things instead. As if on cue, the building's security system chimed softly. Nathan checked his tablet and smiled grimly. Vincent Blackstone just walked into a trap 3 blocks from here. Detective Rivera's team has him in custody. He looked up at Emma, relief evident in his expression. It's over. Emma felt tears of relief spring to her eyes. Really? Just like that, Nathan confirmed, pulling her into his arms. You're safe now. As Emma melted into Nathan's embrace, she realized that while the danger was over, her new life was just beginning. And for the first time in years, she was excited to see what tomorrow would bring.